Welcome, YouTube. Welcome back to Sin City Living and Crossfire. I'm Jason.
I'm Louie.
And this week we are just going to tell some stories. We're going to tell some stories that we've come across, witnessed, or heard in casinos.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely got one that I want to tell, so I'm going to lead off on this one. So, and this happened while I was on break, so unfortunately I missed it, but it happened on my table. So this guy comes in. We have just a regular dice game going, and the table I was at was on the edge of our main walkway. So we send the dice over to the shooter that happens to be right there by the main walkway. He picks up the dice and he throws them. And just as he does this, some random guy that had come in throws Monopoly dice. So we've got our dice and the Monopoly dice that land on the table at the same time. Now, of course,
which one are you going to call?
Call a hard 24. I don't know, but
yeah.
Of course they call a no roll. The box calls a no roll, and so during this, the guy yells out whatever number his Monopoly dice rolled, and then just starts screaming some random nonsense as he's dancing around within the walkway area. So of course, security comes and collects him up and takes him outside. Well, apparently it got even more interesting outside, because once he got outside, he dropped his pants down to around his ankles, then did a barrel roll across the hood of a car, and then started crawling through the valet area. He got arrested. God, I wish I could have seen that. Oh, and he wanted his dice back too, but as security was taking him out.
Get my dice back. That's funny.
I wish I had paid money to see that.
That's a pretty good one. I got one. So we had this guy. He comes in, and it's a full table. Table's full. Busy weekend. 8 people on each side. Somebody leave, somebody come right back in and take the spot. There was a crowd of people waiting for their turn to get on a table. Did not matter the minimum, just really busy. And we had this guy come in. He's being obnoxious, being kind of an ass. Just stroking the dealers, giving other players a hard time, late betting, and all kinds of nonsense, foul language. And we had this boxman. He was my favorite boxman. I won't say his name, but he's sitting boxing. He's really old school. I mean, he's very old school.
He dealt dice to Jesus.
Yeah, he's very old school. Broke in, I think, the 60s, 70s, and I think his...
Possibly the 1860s.
Yeah, and I believe his father was a dealer before, was a dice dealer before him, too.
That's where they carved the dice.
Yeah. That's funny, but he had enough of it. The guy had some hot bets and whatnot. Looks at him. Boxman looks at him. Snatches all his money that he can reach from from a place bet to his hot bets. Looks at him, says, "You know what? We don't need your action. Get the fuck off my table." The guy goes, "What?" He has the money in his hand. And he says, "Get the fuck off my table." I'm thinking he's gonna get ready to give it back to him. The money he has in his hand, he throws it as hard as he can. It hits that alligator skin. It splashes everywhere. He goes, "Get the fuck off my table! Give him his money back!" Oh my gosh. Sorry for the foul language, but that it was hilarious. I had never seen anything like that. It was very old school, and I loved it.
Same box. This is much more of a boring story than that one, but same box. This gives you inside information into how his brain works. We have a lady come up to the table, and she comes to buy in. She drops down a stack about like that thick. Drops down the stack. Now, luckily, she doesn't go splashing it down like some of the, I guess the best word to use is pricks that come into play do, where they just throw the money and it just flutters everywhere like they're trying to make it rain. She just sets it down. I take it and I hand it to him because I am not dealing with that. He picks it up. He looks at it. It's all tens. A stack about like this. All $10 bills. He looks at it and then throws it back, but somehow actually throws it back so the stack still stays together.
This probably wasn't his first time throwing money back.
No. And tells her, the cashier cage is right over there, and it is. We can see it. It's about 30 feet, 40 feet from our dice table. He's like, the cashier cage is right over there. You can go ahead and change that in for bigger bills, and then come on back, and we'll take care of you. She never came back.
Yeah, that's funny. I have a story. It's very similar to that, actually. I went to go play craps one day with a buddy of mine. And I'm not going to say which casino we went to, but we went to this casino, and game was relatively decent. It had about 3 people on one side, 2 on the other. And this guy, he was bragging about how he just came from the strip club and this and that. And you can see it. This dude had stacks and stacks of singles. He probably had a stack of about 100 singles in one band and another stack of 100 singles in another band, and he said he's got more in his pocket. So he loses his money. He takes out that first band of 100 singles and plops it down on the table. So can you change this? And I'm standing there. I'm like, I'm thinking this box is going to send him to the cage with that for sure. No, this boxman. I don't know why he did it. He ran down every single on that stack. Ran it down for about 3 minutes. 100 singles. They gave him 100. Well, he lost that 100. He pulls out another stack of singles. By that time, I was already done. I was about done playing, so I just took my money. I left. I was like, I'm not gonna sit through another. But why nobody told him to take that to the cage? That's $200 in singles, and I don't know how much he bought in beforehand in singles, but that was a pretty good story.
So here's a story. I've got a few stories that I've heard from other dealers where I've asked them some of the dumber things they have seen new dealers do. And this one may not really click for people that don't understand dice very well. But so a new dice dealer comes in. Apparently, this guy had, because we're not a breaking casino. In order to work for us, you have to have been dealing for quite some time. So he gets hired. He says he knows dice, so they bring him into dice. Now this is years ago. This guy still works for us, although this was the only time he was ever on the dice table. He's on base.
He doesn't work for us no more.
No,
I saw him at the gym last night.
So this guy is on base, and it's a come out roll. The player throws the dice. It's a 6. So 6 easy, 6 mark the 6. So what this guy does is he takes the puck to mark the number, puts the puck in the field, and then pays the field. The box was one of the most laid-back boxes that we have. And he just looked at him and went, "We usually mark the point around here, and 6 isn't in the field." And that was all he said. But somehow this guy decided to mark the field when 6 isn't even in the field. Now 9 is, and I suppose it's upside down to the dealer, so it looked like a 6. And 6 isn't in the field either. So yeah, that was fantastic. He got sent over to Blackjack. Now on the Blackjack side, I've heard a couple interesting stories. My favorite one is you get a new dealer that had been hired, supposedly had a ton of experience, and she's dealing on a shoe game. So she finishes up the shoe. She calls shuffle, which, okay, well, once you've been dealing for a while, you generally don't really do that, or you don't do it at a high volume shuffle, because nobody really cares. But she calls shuffle, and the floor is like, yeah, go for it. So, shuffle machine pulls out the cards, puts the new shoe in, deals out the second set of cards, finishes that shoe, calls shuffle. The floor's like, yeah, go for it. And the floor looks up like a minute and a half later, and the dealer's just standing there. And he's like, are you going to shuffle? And she goes, are you going to get me new cards? And that was his warning flag of why would you need new cards? So the way it works is you finish up the shoe, You take the old cards, you hit the button on the shuffle machine, take the old cards, you put them in the shuffle machine to get shuffled, hence shuffle machine. Hit the button, the previous set that had been shuffled comes up and you put those in, and you repeat this in a cycle. This dealer, every time a hand finished, instead of putting it in the dead card slot, she was lifting up the paddle and putting it in the drop box where the money goes. So now this floor had to explain to the casino manager why they needed to open the money box to get all the cards. Because the cards are like dice, they are very tightly controlled. They have to count. When cards come off the table, when they replace cards, all those cards are counted and made sure that every single card is accounted for. Which brings up the second story. So, dealer is dealing blackjack, and a player spills the drinks. And I believe, I think it may have been a shoe game, or it might have been a pitch game, just a double deck. I'm not sure. But the drinks that get spilled just pretty much goes in the chip rack, covers the cards, everything. I don't know what the heck they must have spilled, but it covered everything. Or they were drunk and dropped it instead of from a standing position. I don't know. But they call the floor over. Floor comes over and they get a porter and they start cleaning the chips and the chip rack. It stops the game. And the floor comes over and starts checking out the cards. And he's like, yeah, we got to replace the cards. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be able to clean these off. So he turns around and he goes and gets the new cards. The floor has a process they have to go through. They have to check every single deck, make sure all the cards are accounted for. Then the dealer has to do the same. So he comes back with the cards, with the new cards, and looks and goes, where's the old cards? The dealer goes, well, you said we were going to switch them out, so I threw them away. Again, all the cards are very tightly controlled. So now the floor has to go through the trash can, retrieve all the cards,
oh my gosh,
count, and then go through and verify that every single card is in place.
That's funny. Yeah, I got a story about this player. I was dealing on a reserved game one day, and it was blackjack. I'm dealing on a reserved game, and this player, he's not playing super duper big, but he's playing big enough to where he's got his his own reserve game. And we had this woman. She would always play on the $25 minimum table, blackjack. Well, for whatever reason, him and her always got along. So anytime he would come in and reserve a table, she would always go and play with him, and he would always allow it. And she was such a sweetheart. She would always tip us and everything. This guy was a complete stiff, complete a-hole. And I'm kicking his butt, and he's adding more to his bet. Finally wins a hand. She was winning her hands pretty all right, but she only been $25 to $50, $100 at max. And she throws us a quarter after she hits a blackjack. He says, "What are you doing?" She says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Yeah, what are you doing?" She's like, "I'm tipping the dealer." He goes, "What are you doing? You don't tip. He's like, "You don't tip the dealer." He's like, "You start feeding the animals, then they're gonna expect more." Oh, that hurt my soul when he said that, because he's betting, up to $2,000 a hand, and he can bet, $100 on the, each on the bonuses, and he's been, pretty good money. Not tipping us a dime, this guy. We get a little measly $25 from them. To him it's measly $25. To us it's $25 tip. Oh, it hurt my soul. Got this other story too. I was waiting on a reserve game. This one was baccarat. This is the first time I ever seen big money. I was dealing. I dealt $2,000 a hand, blackjack, stuff like that, but nothing like this. I was waiting on a reserve game in baccarat. Hours. Nobody shows up. So, looking at my watch, I go on break in about 5 minutes. I'm waiting. I see this man walk into the table in a suit. The suit's not the most expensive suit, but he's got a like one of those Walmart bags, like grocery bags that he uses as garbage. He's walking to the table with the bag. And I'm like, is this guy? What's he got in the bag? Dumps out $100,000 on the table. Boom. I was like, oh, I'm waiting on him. Well, he dumps the money on the table. he started getting himself all settled in, and he, by that time I got tapped out to go on break. I take my 20, I come back, he's playing 15,000 a hand. I dealed at him for 20 minutes, and then I got switched over to a different baccarat table. But first time I've ever seen that kind of money, and first time I've ever dealt that action like that. Pretty nerve-wracking.
Just be grateful you didn't have to count down that money.
I know. That's very true.
If he wasn't such a big player, they probably would have made him go to the cage and put it as front money onto his card. Which, by the way, is something that a lot of people don't know they can do. If you have a decent amount of money, if you go to Vegas with, I don't know, a few thousand or something like that, you don't want to be carrying that around. If you know the casino you're going to play at and you have a player's card, you can go to the cashier's cage and you can have that money basically loaded onto your player's card. They'll take it, they'll count it down for you, verify it, they'll put it on your player's card. So now you can just go to any table, give me your player's card and say, I want $500, I want $300, I want $1,000. Well, you don't have to carry it around with you, and that way it's also going to be a whole lot faster. They'll swipe your card, check your front money, then they'll give you the chips, and good to go. It's much faster, much quicker, much easier.
I had a guy front money starting from 1,000. He ended up within half an hour. He went from 3,000 or something all the way up to 28,000 within the span of half an hour. Just front money, kicking his butt on the dice table, and then I ended up going home. But when I left, he was still playing on the table. I can only imagine how much more he got out.
I saw a guy one time hit basically a miracle sports bet parlay for somewhere around I want to say 40,000, 60,000, something like that, and within 6 hours he was down 42,000 on the dice table. And he'd lose like 20 grand or something, or he'd lose 10 grand, buy back in, lose another 10 grand, then go to Blackjack, lose 5-10 grand, then come back over to the dice. So he actually gave it all back.
Jeez.
And then some.
Yeah.
I see that all the time though. People that hit something big, that then they just end up giving it back instead of at least figuring out a portion that they may want to keep.
Oh, that's going right back to my savings.
The rest.
What's going on? Forget that.
Yeah, that's insane.
You got time for a funny story?
Go for it.
No, for you. You've got a couple zingers. I've got one, but I'd like to hear one of your stories real quick, if we have the time.
I'm thinking that we're probably cutting it pretty close on the time here, so we'll definitely do another episode of some stories. We may even invite some guests to come and tell us their stories as well. And if you have any questions, any kind of stories you want to hear, anything that you're curious about, put it in the comments, shoot us an email. Thank you for watching Sin City Living and Crossfire. I'm Jason.
I'm Louie.
We'll catch you guys next time.